This time on Tread Depth, I bought myself a 2008 Pontiac Solstice with a blown head gasket, and today we're going to replace it in the parking lot. So this car is in very rough condition. We got makeup all over the interior, the exterior is trashed, the motor has a blown head gasket. There's a lot wrong with it. But for $800, I feel like I could have done a lot worse. But at the base of it, it is a pretty cool car. It's got a 2.4 liter Ecotec that makes about 170 horsepower. It is rear-wheel drive. This one, sadly, is automatic, but I'm not too concerned with that. My main concern today is the head gasket is very blown. So today, we're going to swap out this head gasket in the parking lot because really I got nowhere else to do it. Actually, I've got plenty of places to do it, but we're going to do it in the parking lot because people assume that head gasket jobs are really big and scary, and it's not that big a deal, especially on an Ecotec, especially on a rear-wheel drive Ecotec where everything is right out in the open. So let's get started.
As we get into teardown, I wanted to start with a disclaimer. This video is for entertainment purposes only. Always use and follow the service manual for any vehicle you are working on, especially if it's not yours or an $800 Solstice that was bound for the junkyard. With that out of the way, I wanted to say thanks to everyone for the frankly incredible response we got from the YouTube short we put up a few days ago. Something like 20,000 views in 48 hours is stunning for a channel this small. And finally, I wanted to talk a bit about the car. It's a 2008 Pontiac Solstice SCCA SSB Championship Edition. And what that means is after a Solstice won the stock showroom B class of the SCCA Championship, GM decided to milk it by offering 250 base models and 250 GXP Solstices with a graphics pack and some lettering on the seats. It's a very rare car, but it's essentially meaningless. The car is, however, very well optioned for a base Solstice, sporting an LSD with 391 gears and a 6-disc CD changer with subwoofer. Alright, so it's about an hour and a half since I started, and I've got the intake, the exhaust, and the valve cover off. And after I got the valve cover off, you can see really clearly that there is like a milkshake looking fluid where there should be oil. So that's one of the most obvious signs of a blown head gasket, is this milkshake looking stuff inside of your head, inside of the motor. Usually your oil will show overfilled on the dipstick because the water is sitting below the oil in the oil pan if it hasn't run in a little while. But yeah, this doesn't look too terrible. Like, it's not the worst I've ever seen. The motor looks in pretty good shape aside from there being water in it, obviously. So we're gonna go ahead and take all this stuff off, get the head off, and start cleaning that up, and then hopefully take the front cover off. If we don't do that first, I'm not really sure what order I'm gonna work in, but get the front cover off so we can put new timing chains on it, and get the head off so we can get it cleaned up and put a new head gasket in there. I figured I'd say it because I know someone's gonna comment it. You're supposed to loosen your head bolts in a specific order or sequence. I didn't here. I was really just rushing, and honestly I wasn't too worried about this head. The weather is starting to look pretty nasty. Hopefully I can get this head off before it starts raining cats and dogs. I might not get a shot of me getting this head off because it might be raining while I'm doing it, but yeah, we're kind of in a race against time now. Alright, so it's a little bit chaotic. I had to rush to pull the head off. The rain is very close. I can say it's within 10 to 20 minutes of absolutely pouring here. So we're gonna shut it up and go inside and clean this head up. Alright, so it rained quite a bit. Car's kind of wet now. It's very humid out. Doesn't look like it's gonna rain for a little while. I will admit that I I cheated a bit. I brought the head inside and cleaned it up. So that doesn't look too bad. I'll also admit that I broke the crap out of this thing, this tensioner, while I was rushing to get this head off before it started pouring out. You can see down in there, those two pistons are very clean. Those are likely the pistons that were getting water inside the cylinders. I think all I gotta do now is get the front cover off and then clean up the head, put it all back together, and we'll be good to go. So it is Thursday, which is, 5 days away from Saturday. I ran into some trouble getting the harmonic balancer off, which is kind of unfortunate because it looks like it damaged the Woodruff key. We got it off, it's damaged. I ordered a new one. It should be here tomorrow, but for today, I'm gonna go ahead and tighten down the head just to get it ready for all the timing stuff. And then we can put it back together. Now, if you're working in a parking lot, you probably don't have a torque wrench. So I'm gonna tighten this head without a torque wrench. I'm just gonna eyeball it, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I have a very high faith in myself, and I'm using a head that I didn't even check for flatness anyway. So we got a bright new shiny head gasket from Felpro here. The head is, if I'm being honest, is cleaned up as much as it's gonna get. It's not an exact science. This isn't a race car. This is a throwaway $800 Solstice. Please don't get too offended by me doing it like this. It's not the right way. Don't put your head gasket on upside down. I hadn't put the head in here. My God, it's so heavy. It's so heavy. Alright, head's on. Box of brand new head bolts, also from Felpro. I'm sure they're made all in the same factory. There's 4 E-Torx head bolts that go right in the front. Yeah, I used an electric impact for running down the head bolts. If you try doing this with a ratchet, it takes like longer than the formation of a star. So the torque spec on this is 26 foot-pounds plus 155 degrees. So we're gonna go 155 degrees. 90. 180. 90. 180. Hey look, I actually did use a sequence for tightening the head, but I went outside to inside instead of going inside to outside like you're supposed to do. But either way, we're doing it all wrong. Use a torque wrench, use a torque angle meter, don't be like me. So it's Friday. It's nearly a week since we started. We finally got the Woodruff key out. That has been the absolute bane of my existence. Obviously, I haven't been working on it the entire week, but I did have to use an angle grinder to cut that Woodruff key out. So it was complete nightmare fuel. But we got it out. We can finally just throw this all back together like it should have been the first day when I was just hoping that it would go together, but one little tiny thing can make this take an entire week. Alright, so I got the car timed. Everything looks okay. At this point, we can go ahead and throw everything back together. The front cover on, put the accessories on, put the fan back in, put the valve cover on, radiator hose, stuff like that, and should be good to run. I'll have to change the oil, add coolant to it, but everything looks pretty good. This has been a nightmare. Went ahead and dropped a new valve cover gasket in after all the old one was hard as a rock. Putting on the valve cover is super easy. You just tighten the bolts down until they stop. There's standoffs to keep you from crushing the gasket. And like everything on this vehicle, it was just really easy to do. There's just tons of space in this engine bay. You know, there's no fenders. There's nothing to get in your way, really. The exhaust, the intake, the fan, the front cover, all of that came off really easy. If I didn't get kind of screwed over by that harmonic balancer, this would have been an absolute walk in the park. So hats off to GM engineering for how easy this car is to work on. Alright, so I think I've got most of, if not everything, reassembled. I'm going to go ahead and lift it up and drain the oil. This place is an absolute mess. A trash can in the passenger compartment because I don't want to litter, get any gloves out in the open here. It's a lovely environment. The trunk has some random parts, VVT actuators that we replaced, old head gasket. Guess I'll just leave that crap in here. We'll throw it away eventually. The engine cover for this crappy little Ecotec, I'll be leaving that off. I hate those things. So yeah, I'll jack it up, change the oil, fill it with coolant. We should be good to go. I guess this is as good as time as any to remind people to always use jack stands. I cannot stand when somebody doesn't use jack stands and then gets underneath a vehicle. That is absolutely terrifying. Look how nasty that oil is. Ew. That's so nasty. It's coming out so slow. Oh wait, I think the oil's coming through now. Oil runs out faster than the sludge-like water-mixed oil that comes out at first, but god damn, that's nasty. Look at that nasty filter. At least there isn't a lot of metal in it, which is a good sign. The motor is in okay mechanical condition. Aside from me grinding literal pieces of metal off inside of it, it looks okay. Here I'm just filling the cooling system. I like having the reservoir at the highest point so bubbles will naturally travel there, and I was squeezing the upper radiator hose to try to get it to pull some coolant in before starting it. From what I can tell, the car has a new water pump on it, which was probably replaced because it leaked all the coolant out and caused it to overheat. But after driving it, I noticed the radiator fan also wasn't working, and that probably caused the cooling system to build enough pressure to cause the water pump to leak in the first place. Here goes nothing. And then I'll put it in clear flood to try to build some oil pressure before I actually get it started. So it'll crank for a little while, and then I'll release the gas pedal and it should start. Is that noise? What would that noise be? Tightened everything, I think. I hope I tightened everything. It's a pretty crazy noise. Fire it up and see what happens. Yeah, it sounds like it's a big gasket leaking. I mean, it really doesn't like having water poured on it, but it does seem to run okay. Pretty quiet. Don't hear any engine noise, although that weird clicking noise was kind of odd. After we got it started, it smoked for a while as it was burning off coolant in the exhaust and moisture from inside of the crankcase. By the time I had got it home, it had stopped smoking, and after replacing the faulty cooling fan, we could finally have a bit of fun with it. Overall, I'm really happy with it. It's a bit disappointing it's automatic, but that really doesn't stop me from going out of the way to take it down a windy road. Just like I hope you'll go out of your way to get subscribed, like this video, and leave a comment on what I should do next with the parking lot head gasket Solstice. And who knows, maybe you might see it on a future episode of Tread Depth.